Deputy Presiding Officer, this SNP government rightly and richly deserves the wretched reputation it has earned when it comes to its record on transparency. This secretive government picks and chooses how and when it engages with issues of significant legal and public interest. It is self-evident and beyond reasonable doubt that Humza Yousaf and Shona Robison have misled the Scottish Parliament. They made and repeated false and misleading claims about when the UK COVID inquiry requested crucial WhatsApp messages. Grieving families are rightly demanding answers, and they deserve them. But sadly, this government will not give them all they need to know to bring justice and closure. Transparency, and as a result the truth, are defined as optional extras in the SNP's cynical political playbook. So let's look at the evidence before us. In June 2021, the UK Government wrote to the Scottish Government requesting that it does not destroy material relevant to the UK COVID inquiry. 2 months later, Nicola Sturgeon announced a separate Scottish COVID inquiry where she said nothing, quotes, will be off limits to the Scottish Government when it comes to providing information. How shallow that sounds now. By December, John Swinney, who now appears as a Praetorian bodyguard accompanying the spectral figure of Nicola Sturgeon around this Parliament, said this: I pledge that the Scottish Government will engage, as I know this Parliament and everyone in Scotland will, to support Lady Poole in this most important inquiry. In August 2022, the Scottish COVID inquiry wrote to the Scottish Government requesting that information relevant to the pandemic is retained. That November, the UK COVID inquiry asked the Scottish Government about potentially relevant messages, including WhatsApp messages, during the pandemic. And in February 2022, the UK COVID inquiry explicitly asked the Scottish Government for any WhatsApp messages relating to key decisions made during the pandemic. Let's note the wording here, relating to. That means messages involving discussions around and discussion about those decisions, even when those decisions were made elsewhere. The fact that decisions may be formally taken in a different forum or in a different context cannot cynically become the government's default defence for deleting and withholding important WhatsApp messages relating to these decisions. This June, Humza Yousaf said that all material which was asked for by the inquiry would be provided. Over the summer, requests for WhatsApps were sent to individual ministers, former ministers and civil servants within the Scottish Government. And yet the First Minister and his deputy still claim they were first requested in September. That was plainly untrue. Their attempt to deflect involves a claim that they had interpreted earlier requests too narrowly. Deputy Presiding Officer, this simply does not stack up. In August, the Scottish Government had already confirmed the existence of WhatsApp groups used by the Scottish Government to the UK COVID inquiry. They conceded that they existed, but they still wouldn't hand over those messages. And for clarity, let's not forget what Humza Yousaf said in June, that WhatsApp messages, emails, signal messages, telegram messages, or whatever, will, and I quote, absolutely be handed over to the COVID inquiries and handed over to them in full. So how can this possibly be consistent with reports that the former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, deleted her WhatsApp messages despite earlier assurance from her to the contrary? And this follows a pattern of deflection, diversion, distraction, deletion, and at times outright deceit. Presiding Officer, Deputy Presiding Officer, a review of similar events proves a pattern of behaviour which supports our motion. SNP government officials held deposit return scheme meetings verbally to avoid correspondence being obtained through Freedom of Information requests. During Alex Salmond's judicial review, the SNP government's own legal counsel admitted that they could not advise the court that the Scottish Government had discharged its duty of candour. The Salmond Inquiry Committee found the SNP government's refusal to hand over documents had impeded its scrutiny function. Nicola Sturgeon admitted that there were no minutes of notes of a crucial meeting with former Ferguson Marine owner Jim McCall. The SNP government refused to reveal the outcome of a bullying probe into one of its own ministers. And this month, the Health Secretary Michael Matheson agreed to pay back £11,000 in roaming charges, 10 months after they were paid by the taxpayer, but only after that scandal hit the headlines. This is the SNP's track record on transparency, and they should be ashamed. In conclusion, Deputy Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government's Ministerial Code said ministers should resign if they knowingly mislead Parliament. And we will only know this if Humza Yousaf and Shona Robison refer themselves to the the Independent Advisor on the Ministerial Code.
Thank you. I now call